Viridian, the Green Guide, written by Clouds, read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 90, Nomu. Shota was either going to expel this kid or give him an award. Maybe both. On the one hand, it was completely idiotic for him to run toward the villains and start chewing them out. But on the other hand, it was working. Only about a third of the villains had turned around and left, though, which meant that he was left to fight through the rest of them as Bakugo faced down the leaders. Luckily, so far, they'd been in too much shock to be able to do anything, but Shota wasn't stupid. He knew it was only a matter of time until they snapped out of it, and when they did, they'd be pissed. There was a loud crash from near the entrance, and the leader's body language changed. He scratched at his neck and hissed something to the mist warper that Shota couldn't quite catch. The warper disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the leader turned to glare at Bakugo. "Nomu! Incapacitate him!" Shota had no clue who Nomu was. He hadn't ever heard of that villain before. But now they had orders to hurt his student, and Shota was swamped by cannon fodder and couldn't get to him. The only thing he could do was erase the villain's quirk, but he had no idea what they even looked like. So his only option was to activate his quirk in Bakugo's general direction while being careful not to erase explosion. Bakugo didn't have any good options either. Not knowing where the attack would be coming from, he had launched himself into the air, probably hoping to get out of the mystery villain's reach. It wasn't enough. Nomu must have had a speed quirk, or at least a strength quirk that allowed him to move with superhuman speed, because when he entered the area where Shota was activating his quirk, he slowed down enough to be visible. But that was it. The villain was giant, and even without his quirk, he was strong enough to pluck Bakugo from the air by one leg like it was nothing. There was an audible snap, and Bakugo screamed. "Kachan!" Shota hissed as he took a blow to his side. He'd been so busy erasing Nomu's quirk that he'd only been half focusing on the villains attacking him. He quickly wrapped his scarf around his newest attacker and tossed them away. He heard another snap and tried to reach Bakugo, only for 3 other villains to block his path. He growled and shifted his stance. His student was in danger, and he was done playing around. Denki grinned as the door flew off its hinges and rocketed toward them, then panicked as he realized that meant that it was about to hit him. He rushed to shut off his quirk, but even without actively being pulled toward him, the door still had momentum, so Denki braced himself for impact. He heard a loud clang and hesitantly peeked, one eye open, only to open them wide when he saw Kirishima standing in front of him with his arms outspread, the metal of the door molding slightly around his body from the force of the impact. "Hey, dude," he grinned as he pushed the door to the floor. "It was pretty manly of you to open the door for us." Denki let out a nervous huff. "Yeah, and it's pretty manly of you too, to save my life." "Not so fast." Denki looked up and froze when he realized one of the villains was standing right in front of them, blocking the path to the opening. The guy was made out of the same mist that they'd seen down in the plaza, so he must have a warping quirk. At least that explained how he'd gotten past them without anyone noticing him, but it didn't make him any easier to fight. "My name is Kuragiri, and we are the League of Villains," the Mist Man introduced. "We came here looking to kill All Might, but it appears that our plans have been interrupted. No matter, that does not change your fate." "No, but Passion might!" Inasa yelled. "What'll happen if that mist of yours is blown away?" "Inasa, no!" No one realized that 13 had their arm outstretched to activate their quirk until it was too late to do anything about it, and Denki felt like he was watching a train wreck in slow motion. In the split second that it took Kurogiri to pull his mist tightly around them to protect himself from the gusts, Denki thought he saw some kind of armor under the gas. But he didn't have time to think about it before everything went wrong. The villain was mostly unaffected by Inasa's winds, but 13's attack was blown wildly off course and started heading straight for where Mina was standing. Denki's entire being was screaming, "Danger, danger, danger," and it was so overwhelming that he couldn't even move. His classmates' screams sounded too far away as he watched Black Hole rush towards Mina. There was nothing he could do. Thankfully, his classmates had a little more presence of mind. At the very last moment, a tongue wrapped around Mina's waist, and Sue pulled her out of the way. Black Hole continued forward, and moments later, the fake tree she'd been standing in front of was sucked into dust. The wind cut out, as did Black Hole, as Inasa and 13 deactivated their quirks. "Leave the villain to 13, Denki yelled. "They've got this. They'll distract him, but we gotta get out of here." The class stopped in their tracks, and he gulped when he saw the open doorway, or what should have been the open doorway, if it hadn't been completely blocked by a giant swarm of angry bees. Coda? Sarah took a step back. "Please tell me your quirk works on insects." Coda's eyes widened and he shook his head frantically. "Insects they're too scary." "But your quirk does work on them?" Uraraka latched onto the possibility. Hesitantly, Coda nodded. But you're a UA student." Uraraka pumped her fist. "You've got all of us, and the teacher's backing you up. You can do this! Plus Ultra!" The class joined in the cheer, and Coda took a shaky breath. "Plus Ultra!" Denki glanced back at 13 and Kurogiri as Coda started talking to the bees. Without the students in the way, 13 had managed to move the fight a little further from the door and was keeping Kurogiri from attacking the students. But it was clear that they were on the defensive and wouldn't be able to hold him off for long. They were running out of time. "Coda, dude," Kirishima said, "hurry it up." I can't," Coda squeaked. "Yes, you can. We believe in you." "No, I mean my quirk's not working." Coda shook. They're kind of bees, but not. They're like robots or something." Denki heard a cry behind them and whipped around just in time to see 13 collapse, the back of their costume torn open from the effects of their own quirk. "It's too bad you're a rescue hero," Kurogiri said smoothly. "Combat heroes have better situational awareness." Inasa looked at Kirishima, then nodded in determination. "We'll distract him. You guys figure out a way to get past those bugs." Denki swallowed. "But how? Robots are made of metal, magnets, electric. Everybody stand back and hold on to something if you're wearing any metal." Everyone rushed to anchor themselves as Kaminari activated One for All and started wrapping the energy around himself. He could feel the wind picking up as Inasa and Kirishima fought the warper, but he didn't pay any mind as he focused on attracting the bees. There was a split second where he thought his desperate plan wouldn't work, but then the angry buzzing got louder as the swarm tried to resist getting pulled away from the doorway. Just getting them out of the doorway, however, wouldn't be enough, so he really hoped the swarm was tightly gathered enough for his idea to work. Improvised special move. Kaminari took the electricity wrapped around his arm and let it flow out until it connected with the nearest bee. "Bug zapper!" At least one of the girls screamed as a wave of bright electricity arced its way through the swarm and the fried bees fell lifeless to the floor. The bees that had escaped the attack almost immediately started swarming again, moving to block the door again before everyone could get out. "We're not all going to be able to make it before they swarm again," Momo yelled. "Ida, you're the fastest. You need to get to campus and tell the teachers what's going on." I can't just leave you here, Ida protested. Running would be shameful. Are you sure he's even fast enough? Minetta cried. Those villains have a warp quirk. You can't outrun that. Are you crazy? Ida looked between his classmates and the bees, hesitating until Kirishima came running up to them. We're out of time, he panted. Inasa's distracting the warp guy, but he's not playing around anymore. Whatever you guys are planning, you gotta do it quick. We don't have a plan, Denki swore, and looked around at his classmates. That's the... Oh, okay, that could work. Yagirosa, make Ida a pair of rollerblades. Okay. Yagirosa's chest instantly started glowing, and Denki turned to Ida. It was a desperate plan, and he honestly wasn't sure if it was all him or if the vestiges were helping him out, because he wasn't that smart. But he had the feeling Izuku would be proud of him either way. Ida, have you ever been on a launch roller coaster before? Well, yes, but I don't think... Ida tried to argue even as Momo handed him the rollerblades and he started putting them on. Well, if this works, it's probably going to be pretty similar to that. So, hang on to your seatbelt. Denki pushed him out the door, only avoiding the remaining bees because Sarah was using his tape as flypaper. I really hope this works. Your engines are metal, right? Ida looked at him. I don't think I like where this is going. Too late. You'll probably want to use your engines to speed up once you get going. Denki gave him an awkward smile as he bent down and put his hands on one of Ida's engines, then muttered to himself, I really hope this works. One for all fouled out of him, and he focused on wrapping the energy around his arm in the opposite direction than what he did normally. He needed to reverse the charge, because if he could do that, then instead of attracting the metal, Ida yelled as he went shooting down the street, forcibly repelled away from Denki as fast as he could go. Sarah whistled. Whoa, Kaminari, where did you learn to do that? Denki shrugged. YouTube? How's he gonna stop? Todoroki asked. Denki's eyes widened as black mist wrapped around them. Oops. Don't you like my Nomu? Shigaraki asked gleefully, adding insult to injury. Sensei gave him to me to kill the symbol of peace, but that doesn't mean he can't kill you too. As soon as I give the order, you're gone. Katsuki grit his teeth and focused on not blacking out again, which wasn't easy with 2 broken legs. This guy wasn't normal, and Katsuki had the sinking feeling that he was some kind of berserker or something. He'd slowed down drastically right before reaching him, so Eraser had probably taken away whatever speed quirk he'd been using. But he was a monster even without it. There was no way he'd be able to walk like this, but that stupid Nomu had forgotten that Katsuki didn't need them as long as he still had his hands. The Nomu was still pinning Katsuki to the ground, but he managed to twist his body and shove one of his hands into its stupid face. His gauntlets weren't full, but he couldn't afford to incapacitate himself with a full power blast, so it would have to do. He used his teeth to pull the pin and expected Shigaraki to start ranting in frustration again as part of the Nomu's face was blown away. But the crazy hand guy just laughed harder. That's not gonna be enough, Ka-chan, Shigaraki cackled. Nomu was bioengineered to kill All Might. Your puny blasts don't have anywhere enough attack power. Katsuki watched in horror as the smoke cleared and the Nomu's face knit itself back together in front of him. The monster had had a speed quirk. That had been obvious, but now he had healing too, so multiple quirks. And Shigaraki had said he was bioengineered, just like Ogawa and the Berserkers had been. Katsuki's eyes widened as he realized they weren't being attacked by some random villains. They were being attacked by the Villain Factory. End of chapter.